Hey,
Do you ever
there,
find it hard? Do you ever find it hard to get into the comedy mode?
absolutely not. No, if anything, it's hard getting out of the comedy mode.
See, that's where I'm at. I do laugh podcasts, and I took almost 20 years off, so I've been playing catch up, trying to vent. um,
No,
but I
no,
always,
no. What you got to do, I'll tell you right now. What you got to do, I tell everybody, as you get older, you got to
Mhm.
appreciate your status in life. You see, the older you
Yeah,
get, the less energy you need to put out, and the more energy you need to reserve for yourself to enjoy what you've done. You see,
wow. See,
and the
that's the
only
reason
way
why I
to
wanted to get you on.
what's that?
I said that's the reason why I wanted to have you on.
Oh,
You have
okay.
such a unique way of viewing what you've done all these years, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I celebrate. I celebrate because it's not me. You see, I was sent here. Hey, listen, I lived in a manger when I was a little baby. When my
Uh-huh.
mother had me, my dad and my mother had a homestead in
Hmm.
northern Alberta, and and
Wow.
and my first uh, time on Earth was spent in a remodeled chicken coop that used to house
Wow.
chickens, and they fixed it up so my mom and dad could live in there, and that was their structure on their homestead. And my dad tried to
Wow.
raise turkeys, but he was more of a gambler and a pool shark than he was a turkey rancher. And so eventually we had to move back into the city of Edmonton, where because he joined the army, the Canadian Army, for the Second World War.
Wow. See, my family's kind of the same. My folks being Native American, our economy was trashed. So my
Yeah,
grandfathers both went into the American Navy during World War II.
sure, sure.
Saved our families.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the whole idea of our existence on Earth. I'm just writing a book now. Um, I'm going to call it The Sweet Spot. But
Nice.
in my book, I have these epiphanies, and
Hmm.
it's one of the epiphanies is that uh, the reason we don't have world world peace, at least we don't ever hear about world peace. When you read the history books, world peace is never in there, and the reason is
No.
is that peace is boring, you know, you know, because nothing's happening. You know what I mean? You're just
Yeah, and
sitting
it's
there
not
enjoying,
it's not
enjoying.
profitable either.
Yeah, it's not definitely not profitable, and it's yeah, it's not exciting. It's boring, which is why when you read the history books, all you hear about is the wars and the conflicts. That's all you
Yeah,
read about, because
yeah,
that's where we make our gains. That's where so as civilization, we make our gains through conflict, and
yeah.
and so if you come to grips with that, then you realize, because in scripture again, in my book, I write about the importance of rules.
Hmm.
You see, if you don't have rules, you can't have orderly existence.
Yeah.
You know, you need rules. For instance, in my book, I talk about golf. The greatest thing about golf is the rules.
Hmm.
Yes, because just think, if you never had rules for golf, you wouldn't even play. you know, it just why, you know, but
Yeah.
because it's a challenge to the
Hmm.
human, and what it is not only a challenge, but it's a religious way exercise,
Hmm.
because all religions are looking uh, for the existence of God.
Mm-hmm.
and for various reasons,
Yeah.
Because we are of God, and
Yes.
and nothing we can do about that. Now, you can say whatever you want to say, and the reason you do say anything is because we're here to learn. So
Yeah.
we're all here to learn, and that's what we're learning. But the existence of God is that's what everybody's looking for,
Mm-hmm.
and like everything, there's no secrets in the world. There's no secrets. That's why when we look out at night, we can see where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where we're going. Yeah.
Well, how have you overcome? I mean, with the fame and the public uh, presentation that you've had to be all these years, how have you overcome that? You
Because
today are the same.
easy. I look at it. It's a very, very big plus in my life. Now, I'll tell you why there are people that reject fame. They don't like the spotlight. There's a lot of reasons why. And the main reason really is that for the most part, when you put a camera on somebody,
Mm-hmm.
they become actors and writers.
Uh-huh.
You see. Now, a lot of actors, that the nature of their job is taking other people's words, other people's thoughts, and making people believe that it came from you.
Uh-huh.
For instance, Fraser,
Mm-hmm.
he seems so cultured and so, genuine and so beautiful, but you hear him in person. And there's a lot of actors like that, that shun the spotlight because they made a living reading other people's words and making you believe that it came from them. You see,
Uh-huh.
and so what happens to a lot of people that they shun the spotlight is because they don't want to be. That's not them. That's their role that they're playing, and what they really are. A lot of them are miserable. Just like those guys that are all in trouble now with sex crimes, frustrated. Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
no matter how rich you are, because what happens with wealth is that it eliminates all your excuses,
Yeah.
and there's no reason. Well, I couldn't do that. I had to work. I couldn't become what I wanted to become because I had a family to raise or something. When they're wealthy, you got no excuse, and so you stumble around. And see, this is where God comes in. See, if you're connected to God, and what now? When people say, "Who, God," I don't believe in God. Okay, that's fine. That's your karma. That's where you're at. That's where you're supposed to be. That's fine. But just saying you don't believe in God doesn't make God disappear. Maybe for you, but not for the reality. And so the question is, what is God? And most religious books, spiritual books, they call God the great mystery.
That's what we call him.
Yeah, the great mystery. Yeah. And as a result, see, the native people have always known, they learn through trial and error, existence.
Exactly.
They've learned. I'm part native, by the way. I found out.
I know.
I cracked up, man, because my mother married a full Chinese. She was half. She was like a quarter native. But the only, the big thing was that she married a Chinese, and I'm a half Chinese. I'm a half of Chinese. They hid the native part for years. In fact, my mom and dad were both gone when we did the DNA and found out that I'm 8% native.
Wow.
Yeah, because now I understand myself. Now I understand where
Uh-huh.
it comes from because that's me. When I was a kid, we grew up like on a reservation house, in a reservation house. No,
Wow.
no heating, wood stove,
Yep.
no outdoor plumbing. We had to go down to the neighbors for the water to fill
Yeah.
up the water jugs and the water cans, and we had a rain barrel for
Mm-hmm.
the garden. We had all the native, and then when for fun, my mom, because again they no washing machine, she washed
Yeah.
clothes by hand in a tub, heated the water on the wood stove, and so that's why we never wore clothes when we had in the summer. Just a pair of
Yeah.
pants, and that was it. No
Yep.
shoes, no shirt. Why? Because the only time you got dressed up was to go to Sunday school.
Yeah.
And that's where I got my connection with God in Sunday school, because that was the only reason. And then it was our only, what do you call it, entertainment, because there's
Yeah.
no radio at that time. And then finally we got radio, but we never had electricity. And so when we got electricity, and then we got a radio, and then that's what started my career as a comedian, because I listened to the radio, because I was the only one in the house that really cared about the radio, so I could take it to bed with me, with a long cord.
Oh.
I'd take it to bed, and I live with that radio, and when you ask why did I become what I am, is because it started really really young. The first
Huh?
thing I learned about was the power of God. I learned the God power. What I was 7, 8 years old,
Yeah.
and then I went to Bible camp, and I got the award of being the nicest guy in Bible camp. My brother was 3 years, who was 3 years older than me. I think he got the award for being the worst because he was running wild with his older friends. But it was my
Mm-hmm.
early need, because I had nothing else. There was no toy stores. You never even heard
Yeah.
of a toy store. You made your toys. Like I carved now. This is a fish clip
Nice.
that I carved,
Nice.
because that's what I used to do when I was a kid. I'd sit in front of the stove, beautiful,
Uh-huh.
basking in the warmth, and then I would take a paring knife and I would carve until I cut myself. And then my mother, as soon as I cut myself, my mother would say, "Okay, put the knife up, go
Yep.
to bed."
Yep. Yeah, I grew up with an old timer, the 3 blades and a
Oh
piece
yeah,
of wood.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. And we made. I learned to make. But you know what I learned? We had an English family move next door to us, or
Uh-huh.
in the nice house. They had everything, the plumbing and everything. I was never inside the house, but it was like a
Mm-hmm.
2-story, almost 3-story. But the English kid, he was from England, and now
Mm-hmm.
he's in the middle of Calgary,
Mm-hmm.
in the next to a reservation, and so he had to make his own toys,
He was a
and he
little
was
lost, huh?
so he showed me how to make boats. He showed me how to make all sorts of good toys.
Nice.
Stilts. We made
Mm-hmm.
stilts. I was never good at any of it. I was good at carving, but I wasn't good at the rest. Yeah. Oh, I had a thing about wave. You were talking about what we were talking about, surfing. Oh, I don't know.
Well, no, we weren't talking about surfing, but I know you have done it.
Yeah, yeah. No, right now. I'm working on a sitcom for now, a sitcom, and
So, Tommy, how's it feel to be so busy again? I mean, there was a long lag there where you were kind of in the shadows.
oh no, I've always, you know what I do, what I've learned to do, and I tell people on my Cameo thing is the great thing about weed. It puts you in the moment, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and when you're in that moment can be very, very incredible. And it can be very soothing. It can be all of those good things, because what weed really did with me is like it just shut me up and just made me appreciate who I am, what I am, why I am, and all the skills and the joys. And I found out that the older you get, like, yeah, the more respected you become, the less you have to talk, the less energy. You don't have to talk because no one really gives a shit about what Grandpa has to say, unless they ask. See, when people ask, it's like the Bible: ask and ye shall receive. You see, and like some of those great jokes, those native jokes. Like there's one joke that I love. You talk about comedy. The native people. Oh my God, the comedy. There's one joke. Now I forget who told it, but he said this old native got stopped on the highway by a highway patrol. I guess there's something wrong with his pickup truck or something. And the cops there are writing a ticket. And while the cops writing the ticket, there's these flies buzzing around the cop's face, And the cop kind of shoos him away and he starts writing. And then you can see him. And so the native goes, them bullshit flies. And the guy goes, what? He says, hold on now. Are you getting smart with me, Chief? And he says, no, not at all. But you can't fool those bullshit flies.
That's a good one. I love. It's amazing to me the longevity that you've had.
Yeah.
And you've always been the same. I've watched you since I was young. By the way, I wanted to tell you, you and Cheech are the only two that ever got me suspended for my TV privileges. I was watching Up in Smoke. And my granddad caught me. I got my TV privileges taken away for 30 days.
From watching Up in Smoke. Oh, that's so cool. No, that's
what I think.
Japanese call that hidden lessons or stolen lessons. Like you're not supposed to. If you want a kid to be interested in something, tell him he's not supposed to see it. Absolutely.
I snuck into town and watched it at a friend's house about a week later.
Of course. Yeah, you had to see it. Yeah. No, I it's all spirit connected. Everything I do. Like now I'm starting to do little sketches, and I actually failed art in high school. I tried. As soon as I got old enough, I wanted to quit school. And that was after I finished grade. No, I was partway into grade 10. I had good marks, so they put me in the high class with the math geniuses and that, And when I came up against algebra, man, it just did not make sense to me. And so I failed algebra, but I took art. And now, did I take it the first year? No, I never. I quit school the first year. Then I went. Then I got a job, as a roofer.
Oh, that's work.
And I would be up on that roof, and I'd watch the kids go to school, and then I'm still on the roof. I watch them come home, and I'm still on that roof. And so I said, I'm going to go back to school. I got to get my grade 12. So then I went back to school, and I got grade 10. I finished grade 10. Then I started grade 11, and man, I took an art course. I was trying to, ease myself into something. And because I thought I'd like to be a commercial artist, And then, so I started taking my art, but I got this weird attitude, native attitude, I guess, because I just want to draw what I want to draw, and do I really want to draw? I'd rather sit and look. I don't know. Anyway, I finished my art. I had a whole pile of stuff, but I did not want to turn it in.
Uh,
Did not want to. I did not want to be open for criticism. I think I loved everything I did so much that to have someone mark it, grade it, is degrading.
Yeah, it is. It is
I
frustrating.
never turned it in, and therefore,
how did you transition to being a musician? A lot of people don't even know that aspect about you.
Again, living on the res, there was first of all there was a fiddle player, our neighbor, and we used to go. We went to his parties, and then he found out that I knew enough guitar that I could back him up because his guitar player got married or something, and so my early thing was working as a rhythm guitar player. I was 8 years old. And from the time I was 8 till now, I learned how to play enough guitar to play with the fiddle player. And then I found out I got musical ability. So then another full-blooded South Sea native from Calgary, we were both in Army cadets together. He was an Elvis. Elvis came out. He became an Elvis impersonator. And I was his backup guitar player. And so we were doing Elvis tunes for the Canadian Legion, and then I got into dancing, the Lindy Hop, and then I ended up with a black girl partner, and then she became a kind of a girlfriend. She was like my first black girlfriend, and that was funny too because I took her home and my dad freaked. He brought me in the kitchen and he goes, "Son, she's black." And I said, "Dad, you're Chinese."
Yeah.
But anyway, I became, that's how I got into music. And then when I got with the black crowd, they turned me on to rhythm and blues. And then we started our first rhythm and blues band. And we were like the first punk rock band because all the players, like the singer was he was semi-pro football running back. He was a football player. Mm-hmm. My brother was a linebacker for the same team. And the sax player was the guard or something. And not the drummer, but myself, I had played high school football. And then the piano player was not only a football player, but he's kind of like a street thug, And so we would play, we started playing rock and roll in Calgary. We got so good that, and we were packed. I started a teen club. See, I've always been involved, helping the community somehow. I think, again, it's my roots, to help the tribe somehow. And so I got in trouble with my other half-breed friends, and one of them went to jail for 2 years. He came out all buff, looking really good. and so I said, "Oh, I want to go to jail." And so years later, I got my wish.
Oh, yeah.
But I was always a working musician. Like when the dance was on, okay, I'd play. When we had a gig to do, I would play. And then as we started, coming up, especially rhythm and blues, I started playing with better musicians. And so they taught me. I had to learn real fast,
Oh, yeah.
And so they taught me a lot of music. And I played with some really good musicians. And that's how, I never dreamed about being anything other than happy.
Yeah. So now you transitioned from music to comedy.
Yeah.
But now you've always played music. Do you still play?
Oh,
I mean, like, for gigs and things like that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, not, no. Just, I'm a recluse now,
Yeah.
I said, no, my guitar.
But you were always fantastic, though. I mean, I always enjoyed watching you in the days when you played music.
Yeah. I still get that urge. I write. It depends what I am. I'm Gemini, so we're twins. So I'm off doing all sorts of shit, but
Yeah.
music is definitely there, and we're in fact, I was in a studio last week with my son, my
Uh-huh.
youngest son. He
Yeah.
plays violin. Yeah, I put him in. I put him and my oldest son, who plays bass. We started a
Uh-huh.
little band, Chong and the Family Stoned, and we played a couple of gigs. We played a couple of gigs, but and now my Jobran, the youngest, he teaches music in Tofino, which is
Nice.
in Canada. Tofino is
Yeah.
like it's all native.
Yeah.
It's a native.
Nice.
It really is native land. The whole place. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
well, now something else a lot of people haven't noticed, but I've been kind of paying attention. Um, you and Cheech still make appearances together
Oh
on a
yeah,
regular, and a lot of people aren't aware of that.
yep.
You guys just did a show last week, right?
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was well the MTV Awards. We
Yeah.
did that. We introduced the Chili Peppers in there.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. Cheech really, he's on screen all the time, doing voiceovers and
Oh yeah.
cartoons and TV shows and that. But I'm getting ready to. I'm working on a TV show now. I just decided with my son, that it started out as a book, but it's going to end up being the beginning of a TV show. With the Chong family, because all my family, they're so talented. And I've got Sugar Ray Leonard, the boxer, the
Oh yeah.
fighter. Yeah, well, Sugar Ray's son, having a little bit of problems with substance abuse, and
Yeah.
I'm so blessed, that my kids. Well, they went through the stages, but they all emerged without, because I was a bodybuilder, and so I got them
Hmm.
all into bodybuilding gyms,
Nice.
and you can, no matter what you do, if you're a bodybuilder, you will always keep one foot on dry land. You make sure that that you're with the diet,
Yep.
especially. And so
Oh
no,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I I had so many friends die from heroin, you know, that when I had a chance to even just try it, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It just meant death to me, and that's with cocaine too.
Yep.
I both, our worst shows we have ever done was on coke, and some of the best work I've ever done. I wrote Does Your Mama Know About Me? On coke. I was on coke, and next thing I know, I wrote this poem. I'm a poet more than anything, and that's what I'll be putting my music to. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was life for me. Again, the secret is knowing the simple fact, the creator. He is you, if you want him to be. I tell people now, I said, we all got a God app, like on your computer.
Yep.
We're all built with the God app. We have a direct connection to the
Uh-huh.
Almighty, to the Creator. And whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter, because it's the truth,
Yeah.
And that's why all those scriptures, they always talk about mountains. And mountains are, well, first of all, all the Bibles, they're all written by writers, and
Yep.
they've taken real live events and then turned them into spectacular events through their talent of being able to describe something in a way. Well, first of all, like the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, the guy from
Yeah.
New York. We shared a cubicle, in Taft in prison. And one day he came home.
Wow.
I was working on my book and writing my book. like I am now. And he asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm writing a book. He goes, I'm going to write a book. And so he wrote a page, and then he handed it to me. And the next day, and then he handed it to me, and he said, what do you think? And it was the first page of The Bonfires of the Vanities,
Wow.
the novel.
Wow.
He had got a photographic memory, and he wrote down verbatim the first page of The Bonfires of the Vanities. He's, what do you think of that? And I said, you haven't written shit, man. And then what? He knows how good he is, And I said, no, I told him the truth, man. I said, no, you haven't written shit. I said, that's a copy of Bonfires of the Vanities. And then he looked really sheepish at me, because he is a genius. And he says, well, what should I write? And I says, write those stories you've been telling me every night. That's what you write, the truth. Yes. I said, but you make it the most of. And he goes, the most of? What do you mean? I said, well, if you're getting high, say on cocaine, you don't just get high. You get higher than anybody has ever gotten high in the history of cocaine. And he wrote that in his book, in the movie too. Oh man. Yeah. And so that is the secret. And what you have to do when you read holy books, because like the natives, there was one tribe that had a written language.
Yep.
And that was in the Northwest. Northeast. Mm-hmm. Way on the west, on the Atlantic side. And what happened, this is very interesting. I found this book, and it's about, he was an archaeologist, and he was flying over New Brunswick. Mm-hmm. And he looked down and he saw the outlines of a Chinese village. Yep. The way the stones and the things. And he looked and he took pictures of it, and he studied the pictures, and he realized, wow, this is Chinese. This is in Canada now. Yeah. And so he went to the site himself. By the way, it's still there, and it's not protected. It's just there. And so that's what awful, he did. Isn't it? So no, it's in New Brunswick. It's on the coast. What happened? He went to the site, and he found evidence that the Chinese were there, and they had built a smelter, something to smelter gold, because back then there was so much gold laying on the beaches that you could just walk around and pick up the gold. And being Chinese, they knew what they were doing, And so while they were there, they went there, I don't know how many years. The guy said over a couple of years, they built this thing, and they would go back to China with the gold, and then they would come back with the boat. And while they were there, they instead of, killing the natives or war and that, they hired the natives. And while they hired him, of course, he probably ended up with the women, and they needed all that. And so while they were there, they taught that tribe the written language. It's Chinese, of the origin. And so it's the only tribe in North America that had a written language. And I'll have to do more research to find out what the tribe was. But that was 400 years before, because he, did the testing and that. That was 400 years before Columbus, is so-called. Before Columbus lost his Italian ass.
Yeah, I think a lot of our history is, if not completely hidden, at least muddied up quite a bit.
Oh, God, can you imagine? Well, that's what I want to do. Part of my going forward is I want to do a series called Migration, and it's about humans have been migrating all over the world, and they're still more than ever. And they did it they're doing right now for the same reason they did way back then, for food, safety, and game. They actually had to follow, the food source. You know.
With me, I think diversity has a lot to do with it too. It seems to over time have been instinctual that if you don't migrate and find others, then you're contributing to your own demise.
Well,
It's like your folks,
somewhat. Yeah,
even
yeah. I mean,
Chinese. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, the Chinese are one of the most advanced races in the world, and but the native people, the people that live close to the earth, because that's, you talk about God, that's God made visible, and
Oh, yeah.
and that's all it is, just like all the creatures on earth, they're all sacred.
Oh, yeah.
Every living thing on earth is sacred, and it has
Absolutely.
the same that life force,
Oh, yeah.
and even if it seems like a rock, even it seems, it's just a rock. But when you look at any rock or a grain of sand, for instance, and then you think
Mhm.
of eternity, you think, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I was watching a show last night, and they say we can see to the edge of the universe. Well, there's no edge. There's no edge,
No.
dude. There's just more universe. And they talk about dark matter. Darkness is the absence of light.
That's
You
all.
get? I mean, they're trying to say that there's some matter that we don't see, that obscures light.
Mhm.
Or is it like you can't have light without darkness? You
That's
need
my
both.
view.
Yeah,
That's
you
my
need
view.
both. You can't have east without west, and you
There
can't
you
have
go.
north without south. There's always an
It's like,
opposite.
I don't know if you've noticed from the video, but I'm sitting outside right now. I
Yeah.
live in the mountains in North Carolina.
Oh, you're kidding.
When I do interviews and talk to people, I love sitting outside.
Oh,
Um, I've got
absolutely.
the I've got the changing of the colors, and I've got leaves falling around me. Um, it's a natural way to connect to people, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all given to us. We might as well use it. You got no
That's it.
problem. When when you have that insight, and we're given it for a reason, that's what I mean. As you get older, uh, that's why if you look at the old gurus, the ones that know, they always got one thing in common, and that's that cosmic giggle that they have. They kind of, no matter what goes on, because this is what I've come to this. I see it now. I see the future, and I've always seen the future. By the way, I was thinking, it wasn't too long ago that I paid money for this friend of mine. Her father was kind of like an inventor, and so
Hmm.
I paid him a couple of $1,000 to make me an electric bike,
Hmm.
which he did. It was a
Nice.
tricycle. It was a car battery in the bed of the tricycle, and
Uh-huh.
it ran. Now, it wasn't good for the road or the highway and that, but it was an electric bike that worked.
Yeah.
I was there with electric bike. I tried to convert an old Oldsmobile into an electric car, and
Hmm.
I did it. I had it done, and it would work for a few feet, but you couldn't run it on the street because of the batteries, and also
Yeah.
the car itself was too heavy
Yeah.
for the kind of batteries. That's why I tell people there are some shops that are converting some cars into
Yeah.
electric cars, but for the most part, when you buy an electric car, you want to have everything built together, so
Yep.
you any problems. But yeah, I've always been, on the thing. Oh yeah, we're talking about. There was a thought about um, what I've done is use energy to propel forward,
Mm-hmm.
and not for money.
Yeah.
My motive has always been, right from the beginning, it's kind of like combating racism. Because my mother, she told me, and I'll never forget, she says, Dommy, you're different than other people.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to be looking at you because you are different. So it's up to you what you do with that attention.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. That's my great grandmother. She always told me that I would be a standout. It was up to me how I wanted to stand out.
Yeah. 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 They're so wise. They're so wise.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And my native grandmother committed suicide. It was
Oh,
pretty sad. It was sad. But she had 8
it's
kids
awful.
before she did. And I think, I don't know. I'm guessing that the grandfather was messing around on her. That's what I think. And and
You
and
know,
and life was so
you,
tough,
now
back then.
you were born in 1944, right?
No, 38.
38.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you've
I'm
seen a
84.
lot of. I thought 74. Wow, Tommy, you are fantastic. Um, so you've seen all this transition and
Yeah,
change over this time
yeah,
in music, in comedy,
yeah,
even socially. Um,
yeah.
how do you see it? How do you see it as you've passed through it? Was it easy for you to get through the changes, or did you have to work to adapt?
No, well, to begin with, I had the best beginning a kid could have. What happened with me, I was taken from my mother when I was an infant. When I was a baby,
Mm-hmm.
my mother ended up with. I must have been around 2 years old or so when my mother got TB. She got it from a native.
Oh,
Like I said, my mother was 20% native. Her
yeah.
sister was married to a Ukrainian fur trapper in British Columbia. He had a dog
Wow.
sled team, and I remember the dog sled team kind of, and I remember him playing a banjo. That was my earliest memories. But my mother got TB, so all the kids got tested, and they found a little spot on my lung. And so I spent my early years in a hospital with nurses as my surrogate mother kind of thing. And these beautiful nurses would come around and to see the little brown guy pick me up. And there was a couple, that's when I became a breast man, I think, because of that early thing. And for almost a year, I was in the hospital, and I'd get like up to 3 shots in my butt a day with the big
Ooh.
thick needle. It was tough, but I beat the pleurisy. And then when we got out, I got out of the hospital. I went right from the hospital into a Salvation Army orphanage home, because my dad had issues from the war, and my mother was in the sanitarium, and there was no relative to take care of us. And so my brother, my sister, myself, we all ended up in the orphanage.
Mm-hmm.
And so my earliest memories was in the orphanage. And that's when I learned discipline. And that's my incarceration. I was
Yeah.
incarcerated at that age. And so when you,
Mm-hmm.
again, like my book, it's all about rules. You
Yeah.
see, you learn the rules, and then you stay within those rules, and you kind of disappear. That's what I did when I went to jail. I never broke any rules. Jail is not a place to be a rebel because
No.
they're equipped to handle anybody. And so,
Yeah.
but they're not equipped. They don't bother with you if you follow the rules. In fact, they rely on you to help them. So I had the run of the prison, because of my
Yeah.
experience, first in the hospital and then in the Salvation Army home. And so,
Yeah.
so incarceration to me really was like a chance to regroup, and to help others, because that's the main thing. I tell people all the time, my cameo, happiness is, you get happiness from helping others, and even some people that are, laid up, old and you can't get around, you have to leave them alone, because they don't want to act like a burden. You want to have to depend on someone else if they can help it. But if they can help it, that's why and the thing is, if you enjoy life, if you look at nature, there's a time for everything. There's a time for, for new buds to come out and blossom, like my tree is here, my kumquat tree. It's not even Christmas, and I got buds coming out, or my pot plants.
Yeah.
Life goes on. Life never stops, and we're just a part of it. And so what I've done, I've used, like in my writing my book now, I realize we need conflict in the world.
Yeah.
That's our energy. And that's why we're here, you see. And when we pass, when we transition, we go to a place called heaven. Now, check this out. What is the opposite of everything? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's how big the spirit world is.
There you go.
It's so small that it doesn't exist hardly.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything in the spiritual world is just love. That's all there is in the spirit world. Because there's no want, need, or desire. There just is love. And everybody that lives on earth transitions, they go to heaven or the spiritual world, and then you get your assignment. Like electricity. When you turn a motor off or the TV off, the electricity doesn't die, it doesn't disappear. It just lies dormant. It's not
or
being
finds
used.
Another path. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's just laying there waiting to be used again for us, and that's what it is. You see, and so that's what we are. We are positive, negative, and we can be both. We can be either one or the other. You can be so negative, What kills me too, reading, like I studied religion when I was in prison, to the point where I paid attention to it.
Yeah.
Usually we just ignore it, and until, say, Sunday comes, and then, the church will go there and be very righteous or whatever, but the truth, what I found is that there, when the natives say, the Creator, the Holy Spirit, the Great Father, they're all those words. They all mean God. Yeah. And God is so powerful that all you have to do is have your mind on God, and He will perfect that which concerns you.
Yeah.
That's in Scripture, and that's been taught by wise people all over the planet, and then some. He will perfect that which concerns you. And that's so important, because say you're a bank robber, but yet you believe in God to the point where, God, help me rob this bank. You will succeed. You will succeed. Because He will perfect that which concerns you, not which is right or wrong, that which concerns you. Now, that bank might be being robbed by some rebels that are being tortured, or by some slaves that are, being freeing themselves, you see. So what I'm learning, and I've known this forever, but the gentle power, like of all the elements that really destroy, the one element that wrecks seems to be the most quiet, gentle, is water.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
Water silently take over,
and it's powerful.
change everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you learn that, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so your faith and understanding has carried you through all this stuff.
Yeah.
Now you find yourself today more active, busier, more recognized. I've noticed that you've been doing a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
How do you get your energy up to maintain this now?
It's love. It's love. It's what I do. It's what I am. Now I can hardly walk half the time. I walk the hill. I go to a doctor every week. I get my blood tested, to make sure that, because I had cancer, and to keep it. Yeah. And I'm taking testosterone shots. That to keep there again. That's part of my energy. And and there's a lot of energy when you get older. There's a lot of sexual energy that needs to be diverted.
Oh yeah.
Nature does not like horny old men. So you gotta.
That's a cruel joke, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not. We had our time.
That's true.
And when I say we, I'm not saying that you're as old as me, but myself and people my age, we had our time. I asked Ernie Borgnine, the actor, because I had heard, over the years that, as he got older, he had a pretty hot wife, and
she was beautiful.
He was sexually active right up to the end, and I saw him standing there one time, and so I had asked him, Ernie, how's your sex life? And he could hardly speak, but he looked at me and he smiled. And he goes, I masturbate.
Wow.
And I thought about it. Think about how beautiful our body was constructed. Think about that. Think about that. That you can pleasure yourself to the limit that no one else can, because no one knows your body better than you. And no one knows better than you what you want to think about when you're pleasuring yourself. You have total control over all of that. And therefore, the answer to an older guy's drive is masturbation, like it was when it was teenagers, when you couldn't get laid properly. It was masturbation. It was always
what's old is new again, huh?
Yeah, well, no, we've always had that ability.
Oh yeah.
And I think our hands are perfect length. Everything was put in the right spot. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It made it easier. And then you could even get more exotic and then pay lip service, which again is a whole nother thing. But isn't it weird how humanity takes pleasures of life like that and they make it, they try to control
everything.
People's most private way. And that's, again, it's control. It's control. But they can't control that. You can't control masturbation. You can. Go ahead.
You have pretty much been who you are this whole time. And one thing that I have noticed that even with the performance and the music and the comedy, you've always been yourself. You've always been in control of who you are, not trying to be a representation of somebody else. Do you find that unusual in those kind of careers?
It can be, especially in the acting profession.
Yeah.
I've met a few actors over my time, and I met some genius. There was an actor called Roy Daltrey's, and he became an actor during the Second World War because he was part of a Shetland Island army brigade that got captured by the Germans real early in the war, and was sent to a German prisoner of war camp. And so, like most prisons, it's the inmates that run the place, and so they started a theater group in the war, and they started memorizing like entire Shakespeare scripts.
Wow.
And he got to the point where he could memorize a book and do it verbatim. That's how incredible he was, and he stayed that incredible. He was in our movie, The Corsican Brothers. He played the evil Fouquet. The evil Fouquet. That was Roy Daltrey's. And so I learned from him part of what the human, what kept him going. And when he, as he got later in life, and started getting various ailments, his wife Kay, they got old together, and what they would do for happiness and for their own self-preservation, they would volunteer at food banks and go down and give food to the homeless and to the hungry, and that's what kept him, his ability, because the thing that makes you unhappy more than anything is ignorance, and the ignorance, and beliefs and fear. See, fear is another form of fear is really a form of ignorance, and hate is a form of ignorance.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's why service to others is so divine. It's a divine way, because that's for happiness. Now, you want to be. This is a road to happiness. Now, in my book, I'm writing that the reason there's no peace on earth is because peace is boring. It's boring. Nothing happens when at peacetime, because there's no reason to do anything except enjoy the peace. And that's what I tell old guys too, man. Hey, they don't want to hear from you, so sit there and enjoy the quiet. They don't want you to pick up things or create or do anything. Just sit there and maybe play with the kids or enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the planting, enjoy watching your garden grow. Enjoy. You see, that's what you do. And that way you don't need a healthy body. You can enjoy with a crippled body, as long as you got your mind, because that's who we are. Yeah. We are our mind. Yeah. And that's how you stay happy. Now with me, I've been driven, the Spirit gave me a lot of work to do. And it's all about following the rules. Like that's what all activity, you have to have rules. And that's what the Bible really was. The Bible was a set of rules. No, and people get hung up. I really hate to criticize anybody, because I know that people either are turned on or they're not turned on. And a lot of people aren't turned on for the simple reason that they have to learn to be who they are on this planet. Yeah. Because we're all here for a reason. We're all here to learn. And that's why, like in the native tribes, they have the hierarchy. You have the elder, and then you have the women, and then you have the young bucks and the men, and everybody has a role to play. And Your job is to help each other. And even the ones that go astray, commit crimes and that, and the natives, they're banished from the tribe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exile.
And sometimes, and that's better, than death, for I guess. I wouldn't know.
In the old times, that could have been a death sentence. Today, there are other opportunities.
Yeah.
So it just fascinates me to listen to your laugh, because you still laugh the same way that you did 25, 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And you still have the same smile. I mean, do you find yourself blessed in that you've been able to maintain yourself this long, as who you are?
Again, who I am is just like a conduit for the Spirit. That's all I am. I get told, man. The computer talks to me. I'm writing the book, and I keep fumbling, and all of a sudden Siri jumps in and says, start recording me, and he starts recording my writing, but I can't record verbally. But I mean, the option is there, because you still have to write something and then record it. So might as well do it all at once. But
nice.
But no, ask and ye shall receive.
Yeah.
And I asked really, really early. I remember going to Sunday school, and I remember them teaching that God is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember going home with my friends, and I'm looking for God, and God's everywhere. Where exactly? And because of that question, I felt something lift my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up at the night sky. And because we're in Canada, and it was in the country, there's no lights anywhere, no house lights, no street lights, nothing, pitch black. The stars were so bright in Calgary in that. And so when I asked that question, God, where are you? It was like, I'm here. This is me. And you could see all the stars and the planets and the comets and all this lively action in the night skies. And then it was there. And then when I went to Bible camp, I was in the tent at night, and the teacher comes in. He says, and he taught us how to pray. Mm-hmm. And it was so, oh man, because when you pray, like I wrote in one book, I said, all you have to do is pray for wisdom. Mm-hmm. That's all you have to do. And that's what I did. And that's what I've been doing. And look at the payoff. Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't make it through high school. I literally, 3 tries to make it through high school. The last one was prison. In prison, if you don't have a high school education, it's mandatory that you go to school, except if you're a certain age. Well, I was that age, but I wanted to go to school. I wanted to get my high school diploma.
Yeah.
As soon as I got next to algebra, man, oh God, I couldn't keep that thought. Yeah. My mind is too esoteric. It goes all over the place. I hear music, I sing, and all of a sudden to figure out X, Y, equals W.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that? I don't have the focus power. But what I have, because I told someone, I said, there's nothing in school that I can learn. What I need to learn is on the street. It's on the street, in the alley. It's out there, and that's. Then I started meeting. In fact, my house turned to almost like a halfway house for prisoners, because Canada at the time, they never had any programs for people getting out of jail. and they just get like in New York, for instance, they'll put people out of jail at all hours of the night day, just because they know they got nowhere to go. So there's no home to go to, so they just let them out. Doesn't matter, and they'll get a bus ride to the street that they used to hang out in.
Yep.
And it's that's what's happening. But when I went to prison, that was it was a highlight of my life. My wife was crying, and everybody's sad. My daughter was pissed off. She was mad that I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
I was the only guy that's kind of looking forward to it because I'm a writer,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be embedded with the troops,
Yeah.
And sure enough, as soon as I got in there, man, I met so many cool, really, really interesting people. And
Real humans.
We had the best time. I had the best time.
Well, Tommy, I know we're just a little bit over an hour, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
I love the
I've
chance.
admired you. I've admired you for 30 years, and I appreciate your time.
Anytime, brother. What tribe are you with, by the way?
I'm Cherokee.
Cherokee.
I'm Cherokee. Yeah. I actually live on the reservation in North Carolina.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
The country here.
The Ku Klux Klan. I watched a documentary on these guys, and they started in the South. And they were ex-Confederate soldiers from Scotland and Ireland.
Oh yeah,
and that's why they call themselves the Klan, because they're Scottish Klan, and they lived in the mountains, and that's why they were hillbillies.
Yeah, a lot of them were Scots Irish from like Virginia and the lower mountains in Georgia.
Yeah. And so that they were so clannish. Can you imagine someone black? Definitely not sure. There's or Chinese or anybody of color. These guys.
Oh yeah, or native.
Yeah, especially native. Oh my God. Oh no, I'm so man. I am. You have no idea how proud I am to know that I have that 8% blood in me. Woof. It just explains so much. It's when I was a kid.
Small things.
When I was a kid, one of my activities, we lived on a prairie. Very flat land, a lot of wheat farms around me. But if you look, we had foothills, and in the foothills were these little groves of poplar trees, and my instinct was I got to go there. And so as soon as I could, my mom would pack me a lunch and hike off to the mountain. Now with my brother, usually, but then I started going by myself. Yeah. And I would hike a mile across the field into the little grove against the foothill and just spend the whole day. Sometimes I'd make a little fire just out of habit and toast my sandwich or whatever I had. And then I would climb the trees by myself or just sit there with the flowers and in the wild. And usually mice and all sorts of owls and stuff. And when I got to jail, we had an Indian sweat lodge in Taft. And that was the second thing I joined right away, man. They got me in there. Oh, God. Anyway.
Tommy, thank you very much.
Okay, brother.
I look forward to seeing some of your new stuff coming out. Do you know when your TV series, your show's going to be coming out?
No, it'll be announced for sure,
All right.
But we got a documentary that's going to probably hit the movie things first. And then we're going to add the other one. Yeah, I was working on a Cheech and Chong project, and then I realized Oh man, I got to do Tommy Chong, and then Cheech will be part of it,
There
but
you
not.
go. Well, I wanted to make sure we covered some business too, you know. And you're working on a book, so that I know how that process is.
Yeah, the book. I got. The book's going to be done really shortly,
Nice,
and we got a documentary coming out. And of course, all my CBD products are selling like crazy all around the world now.
nice,
And we got Cheech and Chong gummies that are even being sold in Texas. So
nice.
they're 3%, 3.5% THC, but it's legal
Sweet,
and
sweet.
it's hemp. It's hemp, and so people with ailments and that, man, you can get our Cheech and Chong gummies. In fact, this is a picture of the bottle right here. They're
There we
called
go, folks.
Cruise. They're called Cruise Chews.
Cruise choose.
Cruise
Nice.
Chew, the Cheech and Chong. And so
I
they're
will make
available.
sure to get a link in there for that so people can find it, Tommy.
I appreciate that, brother. Anytime you call me, I'm with you.
I appreciate you, Tommy. Thank you.
Okay, brother. Okay.